or be destroyed from a reputation standpoint. And the guys that you would name on that defense are guys that constantly won those matchups. You look at, BJ, you look at Connor Williams, you look at AJ, you look at Zach Vigil, you look at some of those, Nevin Lawson, you look at, Brian Sweet, all these guys you're talking about and you're looking at, and those are guys that frickin' were flat out men who took care of business and frickin' won, put time in. So what I'm saying is this mentality that they have now is that's permeating like a cancer through the entire program is the same mindset that Wyatt Houston exhibited today. Not one of those guys would have ever have said, oh, when I look back on this time, I'm not necessarily going to think about the win and loss column and the fact that we're 1-5 in the Mountain West. I'm not going to look at that. And I'm going to look at friendships, and I'm going to think of, the experiences that I'm having and the wonderful people that I'm meeting and the fact that I have to, be interviewed by the media. I mean, who else gets that opportunity in life? This is just great. We're facing this adversity and we're getting punched in the teeth and we're not resilient at all. And this is just great. Not one of those guys would talk with that tone about being scored on. And so, when you look at those guys, I mean, that's a collection of badass dudes who do their job. And we don't have that collection this year. I mean, we've got a few, but, we don't have them all. All those guys would be comparable to like a Dallin Levitt this year. And we don't have 11 Dallin Levitts like we did that year. So those years.
Yeah. And I don't even know if you need 11 guys, because sometimes you have a young Nevin Lawson who might get pass interference quite a bit, or a young Brian Sweet or something like that.
Yeah, and Nevin Lawson did that. I made that comment the other day. Like every time Nevin used to get thrown to, I would frickin', leave a little skid mark in my shorts.
Right.
Because he was always getting pass interference calls, but he played with aggression. He played tight and he played physical, and eventually, that stopped happening. But those were guys still that had that mentality. And, you look at Daniel Gray, he'll lay on the ground and punch the field and, and complain and all that kind of stuff and get down on himself. And those guys did not do that. So there's a distinct difference, and I'm down there and I'm watching so I can make those observations. And as much as those guys want to argue, those are the facts. I mean, they are. And, you said that Coach Wells might be offended and players might be offended. Well, they might. But they would go do some personal introspection in the dark bathroom at night after listening, and they'd be like, you know what? That's 100% right. So it's just, I mean, it's a mindset. And these guys, these guys are just different than those guys were at a lot of those positions. So.
Yeah, and to your point, a young Nevin Lawson or a young offensive lineman that has that aggression and plays that way, obviously we hear a lot about Utah and BYU, living in the state of Utah on sports radio and on TV and different things. But I've seen a lot more players that play with aggression and that I would take on my team any day, whether it's offense or defensive line, for example, than I'm seeing at Utah State right now. So that's that's frustrating for me to watch. That's frustrating for you to watch, obviously. And real quick, we have to wrap it up in like 10 minutes. But this podcast is brought to you by ustateaggies.com on the scout.com network. Definitely go check out all the deals, the premium membership. Even if you don't sign up to be a premium member, there are awesome basketball articles, football articles. Post on the website. Post your thoughts on the forums. If you do want to be a premium subscriber, you get deals on tickets, you get deals on gear. You get SI for a year if you pay for the year subscription, which is about $45, $44.95 or whatever it is. And if you use the code Aggie Up, you get 3 months free. So definitely take advantage of that. We're going to wrap it up in under 10 minutes. And to kind of continue on with that, 11 guys. It may be hard to get 11 guys that are experienced, that play the right way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's only a couple guys. Let's be honest, right? It's only a couple guys that are playing that way and have that mentality that Utah State should have, and that's kind of the disappointing part.
We've got a couple, and we've got a couple guys this year, and it's dirty. So I mean, it's 1-5 in the Mountain West. So yeah, it's crazy. But
yeah, and maybe I'll just mention this is not really a question for you, Kyle, but Utah State is in last place in the Mountain Division, even with 2 wins, even with a win against New Mexico and a win against Nevada. Utah State will still be at or tied for last place in the Mountain Division. Did you see this happening when you were playing at Utah State? Like, could you even imagine this happening?
No, and even at the beginning of the year, no, I couldn't see it happening, and even in it's just it's I don't know. I mean, we've had so many opportunities, and I've said this before, but guys will look back with such regret on all the opportunities they had to change the narrative and didn't. So that's the cool thing about it is, the media is going to say what they're going to say, and they're going to be negative when the product isn't good on the field. And, I see tweets, even though I don't have Twitter, I see tweets sometimes of people saying, put some respect on it, like Kerwin Williams did, or Kennedy Williams did, or they only love us when we're up, or they don't love us when they're down type thing. Yeah. It's like nobody loved you to come here and be just a great guy in the neighborhood. Like, that's not what people buy tickets for is, that guy does service projects, and nobody is going to respect you if you can't even put a respectable performance on the field and you're 1-5 in the conference. Why the freak do you think you deserve respect? Yeah. So that's the funny part in it all to me is that the players can get out there and then change the narrative. I mean, truth hurts, but you have the opportunity every week to change the narrative, and they haven't done that.
Yeah, I mean, those tweets and those social media posts are only proving the point. They're only making your case worse. So I guess moving forward, obviously, we talked about the facts as far as, we don't think, Coach Wells is going to get fired and that kind of thing, which I think is a good thing. A lot of people just want a knee-jerk reaction and make some changes. I don't think that's very likely to happen. So that may make for another season, or may make for a really interesting season as far as next year. Maybe that would cause a lot less season tickets and different things like that. So I don't know what to say about that. But what do you think then, that whether maybe, I guess the narrative maybe would be, and I guess we probably hash this out and prove this to be wrong, but a lot of people, I'm sure, coaches, for example, if you went up and asked them, they would say, yeah, it's a tough season, but we'll be all right next season. What is it going to take to turn around next season? Or is it just a matter of getting back to a bowl next season, little by little, maybe even changing that short-term approach to a long-term approach and building it a little with a more solid foundation, trying to bring in those guys instead of trying to increase the talent with some JC guys or increase the numbers with some JC guys? What do you think? What do you think is the best way to go about it?
Coach Wells, I think, talked about, bringing some JC guys in to bolster the offensive and defensive side of the ball, and even the defensive line, offensive line, all that kind of stuff. And it's that whole, conversation that you have in business sometimes. Like, either you make your business stronger using, the organic growth and sprinkle in some acquisitions, or you're an acquisition-based company and you sprinkle in or try to sprinkle in organic growth. If you're trying to grow your business purely off acquisitions, that means that your model sucks, your product sucks, and you're going out and trying to buy companies while you have the capital to add value to your portfolio because you can't do it yourself. And I think that's what JC guys are is like an acquisitional type approach to changing the program. And you need that organic growth for long-term sustained success. So I think they're going to have to gamble this year and go the acquisition route in terms of picking up JC guys who haven't been in the system and hope that they're ready to play come fall. And then maybe we can see a significant turnaround if they strike gold, this off season. But I personally don't see that happening. I think they're going to go the acquisition route and perform, kind of like they have in years past and get a similar result, but better to what we saw this year. So it'll be slow, a slow reverse of the trajectory. But a big ship takes a long time to turn around. And I do think that they're in a negative situation here where they're going to have to add some pieces that currently aren't developing in the program. But I think there are some pieces that are developing, but not enough. So that organic growth won't be there, unfortunately. So you're going to have to, strike gold with an acquisition and hope that you can develop some of the talent on the back end. So we'll need a really good mix of guys who are game ready from a JC standpoint, and then a really good core of buildable guys that we can add in and infuse in on the bottom end and start, developing for when those guys leave in 1-2 years.
Yeah, and I mean, looking back a couple years ago, not only did Utah State win some huge recruiting battles for some of those guys that you mentioned, some of the Bo-J Moyatu guys, some of those kind of guys, they won recruiting battles, but they also, found some diamonds in the rough as well. So it's one of those things that whether you go the JC route or whether you go all high school players, maybe they'll sign 25 high school guys this year and say, hey, look at us, we're building for the long term and everything. But at the same time, you got to sign the right guys, and you usually have to beat out somebody for good players. Wyatt Houston, they didn't have to beat out very many teams, and maybe some teams would like to have White Houston on their team, but at the same time, it's you usually got to beat somebody out. You usually got to beat
but
guy.
The thing is here, Isaac, is I don't know that we do. I mean, we can continue to pick off those guys that are being under recruited and that don't have strong evaluations on Scout.com and whatever else. I mean, there are 1- and 2-star guys out there that are freaking every bit as good. They might not be, ready from a physical standpoint, but that can come in and develop and play and put on weight and be a very, very strong player, at the Mountain West level and as a Division I player. And so I think that, if they want to gamble with some of the JC guys, great, do it. But, and Coach Frank knows this, there's like a mindset of guys that you have to be able to go out and get, and it's tough to do. And but we don't have to win recruiting battles if we can find kids that are like that. But like I said, it's hard to get out there and find those types of guys. Maybe I think obviously that's why we're in the situation that we're in now. But so I think Coach Anderson was a really good recruiter at winning those battles when he had to. But competing for Bo-J&L, I mean, nobody really offered those guys, right? I mean, nobody really offered anybody that nobody offered Bobby, nobody offered any of those guys. So right. It's not like he was going and competing in these heinous recruiting battles. He just had an eye for guys with a great mindset, with good frames that he thought he could develop. And that's where he was strong. And so I think it does take an eye for that. Obviously that eye has been, missing or on vacation for a few years. But I don't know. So I think that, get some of these JC guys early and recruit them hard, and you're going to have to win some battles maybe there. But from a development standpoint, we shouldn't have to maybe win a lot of these recruiting battles. We can go in, get after some of those guys if we're strategic and laser sharp that way.
Yeah. So thanks, Kyle. We are out of time. Really appreciate it. That is great stuff. We'll try to have you on again and listen to Aggie Up Podcast.